This is Francesco Albertino with the Uncensored Report. In today's report, I wanted to talk a little bit about all this talk with Donald Trump regarding he's a Nazi. Even though there's nothing concrete, nothing that he said, done, or anything like that that would attribute him to Hitler in a certain sense. I wanted to touch on some of the groups that have been that, you know, a lot of people are fearing, oh no, Donald Trump's been elected and Nazism is here. But Nazism, or the form of Nazism, the generalities of it, have been here for a while. And that type of regime has been rising in America ever since the end of World War II. It began a long time ago. After the Second War, the government recruited Hitler's employees. We all know about Project Paperclip. They wanted these guys because they wanted to know how they had that mindset about law and order, how they implemented certain tactics out there, how they basically laid that foundation that created this Third Reich, which was essentially contains a lot of the variables that our government would like to have in terms of controlling people, controlling the masses. And I know you might be saying, oh, that's far-fetched, but it really isn't. If you go out there and you look at the Nazi police state, it was initially admired for its efficiency. It was very efficient. The world powers were really enamored by Edgar Hoover with the FBI, because I want to focus on, I was reading an article about this in the FBI, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the article because it was interesting, because he sent this guy coffee over to Berlin in 38, and he said, go over there, let's check out their secret police, the Gestapo, and see what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how we can incorporate that. So, and then you got the end of the war. We had thousands of Nazi collaborators. They were given secret visas. They were brought over here in Project Paperclip, mainly by the CIA, but through groups like the FBI too. There, we hired their spies, informants, and we camouflaged them so that their true identities would not be known to the public until just a few short years ago. Thousands of Jewish refugees that went through imprisonment and a hellish nightmare over in Germany couldn't get here because they were a threat. They were deemed a threat to national security, yet many of these Nazis were able to come here. And guess what? They did it on the taxpayers' dollar. We paid for them to come here, their payroll. And anyone that dare to blow a whistle on the FBI, the CIA, any of these groups on their illicit Nazi ties, well, guess what? You were going to get spied upon. You were going to get intimidated. You were going to get harassed and labeled as a national security threat. The FBI, the CIA, the military, they fully embraced that Nazis' well-honed policing tactics. And I fear, that they're being used against American citizens. And I'm going to show you how. With every passing day, the United States, we go out there and we borrow a lot of the procedures that were used back then. If you think about it, if you go back and you look at the Nazi playbook, secret police, secret courts, secret government agencies, surveillance, censorship, intimidation, harassment, indefinite detention. Aren't all those basically essentially in play here in the United States? The FBI, look at them. We see a ton of surveillance, disinformation, blackmail, entrapment, overreach, abuse, damaging to private property. The list goes on. The FBI has gone so far as to do many things like planning informants into churches, into synagogues, into mosques, fake emergency letters to gain access into phone records, recruit high school students to spy on fellow students and see if they show signs of being future terrorists, flexing their muscle and doing the dirty work out there, trying to get people to comply, keeping tabs on dissidents. Whatever minimum restriction initially kept the FBI surveillance activities within the bounds of law just disappeared once 9/11 came around. And we willingly signed it for our safety. We did it because we wanted safety, and we gave them all this freedom. Their far-reaching powers to surveil, detain, interrogate, investigate, much like the Nazis, much like the Gestapo. And they have vast resources too. Vast investigatory powers. How about their data campuses, where you go out there, they have 96 million sets of fingerprints in the United States on people that have not even committed crime yet. They build profiles on people. What's that movie? There was a movie with Tom Cruise on future crimes. Can't remember of it. But they basically put it all in here to try to determine, collect data, and see who's going to create a future crime out there. They spy on our mail and our calls, just like the Gestapo did. They have carte blanche. They go into anyone's personal information. It doesn't matter if you committed a crime. If you're thinking about it, then they go into there. They worked with the post office. I put this out a long time ago. They worked with the post office and went through 160 billion pieces of mail that were scanned and recorded. And this is annually. They go through it. Did you know that? Did you realize that? There's sophisticated surveillance. There's spying capabilities on our most intimate details that are out there. They use the technology. They go in. They don't even have to use the technology. They'll listen into your phones. They'll read your emails, your text messages. They monitor the website, your social media. They use such devices as Stingray. We had Sarasota Police Department use it here. That's right. The FBI takes this technology and they hand it down to the local police because the police are essentially nationalized. And I'm going to cover that in a second. They go out there and they'll profile. Even though they have laws against it, we're not fans of it, they go out there and profile people based upon their religion and their race, their whatever it be out there, whatever characteristic they need to. They use these biometric databases out there in massive proportions. The Intercept, which is Glenn Greenwald. I think he used to work with The Guardian. He's the one that did the initial Snowden, broke that all out. He's with The Intercept. And they report, despite anti-profiling prohibitions that we have here, that the Bureau, the FBI, claims considerable latitude to use race, ethnicity, nationality, religion, in terms of going out and investigating individuals. The war on terror, the nation's de facto secret police force, has begun using such terms as anti-government, extremist. If you are an avid supporter of the Second Amendment, then you may be an extremist. You may be a terrorist. You may be a danger to the public. If you subscribe to certain religious views, everything but Islam, I think, in most cases. And then what they do is they use these loopholes out there. They use these loopholes and they've done it for years, that the FBI can go out and, certain circumstances, bypass their own rules, sending in undercover agents, informants, and everybody into political organizations, into schools, into clubs. You know, that's how Hitler first got his start, if you recall. He went out, he got out of the, he didn't get out of the military. It was after he got out of the hospital, and I think he was essentially still in the military, and they used him to go spy on extremist organizations. And he went out there, he liked what the Nazi group, which had a different name back then, had to say, and next thing you know, he's their leader, blah, 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 the rest is history. But they can essentially go out and say, you know, we went to this group, they're anti-government. We need to do something. They have no qualm as to using these powers to go out and blackmail politicians, to spy on celebrities and other high-ranking individuals, and intimidating them into giving them what they want. They become the master of entrapment, essentially. Doesn't this sound a lot like the Gestapo? If you look at it, in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, the FBI, they have not only targeted vulnerable individuals, but they've lured and blackmailed many of them into fake terror plots. You know, they'll essentially go out there and create a terror plot and then arrest the person after they create it in this entrapment process, this terrorist plotting. They'll go out, they'll get them the arms, the money and everything. They'll create the whole crime and then arrest the individual. And the same goes with the drugs and everything else out there. When and if a true history of the FBI is ever uncovered, is ever written, is ever brought out into the public's eye, it will not only track the rise of the American police state that we've seen balloon up since after the war, it will chart the decline of our freedom within America. In much the same way that the Germans lost theirs to the secret police, how they tracked and everything, tracked them, monitored everything through the Nazi regime. And that's where you see a lot of similarities. You know, people are saying Trump's a Hitler, Trump's a Hitler. Now we're seeing the rise of Nazism. No, you've seen the rise of Nazism ever since the 40's. They're creating these sophisticated, like I said, I'm hitting hard on the surveillance and law enforcement systems. You know, they go out there and they use the success of corporations, of the military, the police, intelligence community, and they use them out there to their advantage. And these guys are more than willing to do it. And it's scary. You know, the National Police, if they're a lot like the Gestapo out there. Basically, you got these local police that are getting all this nice machinery, this military grade hardware. They're getting funding from the federal government. We have a nationalized police. Again, along the lines of the Gestapo. And that's how the Gestapo became the terror of the Third Reich. So next time you're out there and you're wondering, is Trump the rise of Nazism in the United States? No, Trump is not. He may be part of the ever-growing rise towards Nazism. I don't know. That's debatable. But I can tell you for sure that he is not it. Much like the most of the German people, we the people, we've become so passive, so polarized, so gullible out there. We can be manipulated in any way. We're distracted with the real life of the Joneses in Atlanta. We've become complacent. And basically we're out there, you know, we're distracted. We got our iPhones and everything. We're not out there keeping our government in check. And then you're having this rise. And this article that I was reading called it the rise of the Fourth Reich, which was rather interesting. And so there you have it. Nazism's already here, or a form of it. It's been practiced for many years. It's something that the United States government picked up because they were enamored with it when they saw it being used to control the masses in Germany. This has been Francesco Abruzzino with the Uncensored Report.